Welcome to this coding video where I'm going to show you how to code snake in JavaScript, and I'm going to use the P5.js library, which is a library that gives you like animation and image functions and input and sound and loads of really simple things to use, and very useful things as well. So how do you get P5? First, go to the P5.js website, which is p5js.org, and then you want to go to their download page. By the way, these animations and things, they're made using the P5 library, and I've noticed like every month or so they change and have a different artist designing their page and things, which is nice. Right, so I've downloaded P5.js, which is the main library. So all you have to do is click on this complete library bundle here, and that will give you this folder. Doesn't matter whether you're on Linux, Windows, or a Mac like I am. So what's inside that folder? Inside this folder is something different to what was there a few months ago. So they might change things now and then, but essentially the same thing is there. The most important thing is that we've got the p5.js file, which is JavaScript, and it just contains all the functions and the classes and everything to use P5's functions. We've got a mini version of it, which should be like a smaller file. So we've got 1 megabyte and then a 285 kilobyte version. So it gives you a lot of the same functions, but is smaller. And also, what used to be called a libraries folder, I think, we've got P5 DOM and P5 sound. So sound is obvious, that's for playing MP3s or WAV files, or making like an oscillator object, making like sine waves and things like this. Or we've got DOM, which is for like creating sliders and inputs and buttons and that kind of thing on your web page. So they work nicely with the main P5.js library. Right, you've also got, which is really important, an empty example folder. So this is where you would make your animation or game or simulation. We're going to make snake. So what you'd want to do is, let's just close this down. You want to download this bundle, which will give you this P5 folder. And inside, do something like copy and paste, Command C, Command V. That should be on my desktop. I think it's under my face. There he is. Right, pull you down there. And then rename your folder after the project you're making. So we're going to make, snake tutorial. There we go. So inside every P5 sketch or web page that you might make with P5 is going to contain an index.html, so that's your main web page, and then your main like JavaScript file. You can already see that it's going to have a setup function and a draw function. So that's where the program will begin, and the draw function is the animation or the game loop over and over and over again. So what this main web page has to do is link to this main file, and you do that using HTML. But it's already set up for you in here. I'll show you how to do it anyway. So how do you actually start programming? You need to go and get yourself a text editor, or I suppose you could use a very simple text editor like Notepad or something, but we could go and find one now. I'm using brackets, so I would recommend brackets. It's easy to make like a local server. It does it for you. There we are, brackets.io. So you would download brackets. I'm sure you can handle that, and then install it, and then you'll be able to manipulate things, make your code. So let's get going. So I've already got brackets installed, so I'm just opening brackets, and what we need to do then is find the folder we made on our desktop. So here's a version of like Flappy Bird I was making, or what I got, No Man's Flappy Craft. So I'm going to go to open folder. Notice I didn't go to open file. I want to open the entire folder. So it's like we've got a project folder to work with, and then we can see all our files that we want to link together and things nice and easily. So I want to go to my documents. No, I don't. I want to go to my desktop, sorry. And there's the folder. So we can see P5, which is that one. And I see Snake Tutorial, which is that one. There we go. And then open that. Brilliant. So now we've got that index HTML and we've got our sketch. So there's the place where we start programming. So let's just have a look at the index HTML. So what's different is usually, beforehand, this would link to those library files, that the DOM and sound and the main P5.js library file locally, but it's not. It's actually sourcing it from the online repository, which kind of makes sense. That means whenever the processing company, organization, they're a non-profit organization that program this wonderful library to help artists and hobbyists and museum exhibitionists and people program easily or code easily. So whenever they update their library, you will now get the latest kind of version. Or will you? Or will you? Will you just get the version that's kind of mentioned here? Right, so what you could do is link to it locally. Let's just show you how to do that. So we're not going to use sound, so we can take away this. And we're not going to use DOM. And we're actually not going to use the mini JS either. Let's use a full one. So this is our main file, sketch.js. So we do want to link to that. Notice this source is local because we haven't got HTTPS there. If we just put into quotes a name of a file, it will look inside the immediate folder that we're in. If we made another folder in here, I haven't made that in the right place, so let me drag that into Snake Tutorial folder. So we could call this Untitled folder now libs for libraries, and then we could put P5 inside of there. Let's do that. So P5.js, let's drag you into libraries. Oops, I've actually moved the file rather than copy it. Let's just duplicate you. Oh, now I've duplicated the entire folder. Try that again. Duplicate. And I'll drag you back into P5. Is that right? Oh my god, this is a mess. Where have I put it? P5 copy back into P5, please. There we go. And rename you P5.js. There we go. So we've got what we're supposed to have. We've got inside of our Snake Tutorial folder, we've got the HTML file, which we're looking at using brackets, the brackets code editor. Then we've got a library folder, which I just made, and I put inside there the P5.js library file. Then outside, next to the HTML file, I've got our main program, our main JavaScript program file, which is called sketch.js. You could rename that, but you'd have to remember to rename it in here. Let's do that. I usually do this, so I'm going to call it snake.js. So now our HTML file will no longer link to sketch.js because sketch.js no longer exists. So we want to link to this snake.tut. So once you start putting it in, usually it comes up in brackets, but it didn't work there. There we go. snake.tut.js. Brilliant. But we also need to link to our P5 library. So let's do that. We want a new script, and the source is going to equal. Now we can't just write P5.js. We've got to go inside the folder libs. So we'll write libs /P5.js. There we go. And we could tell it what. Should we tell it what type? Let's say type equals text / this is JavaScript. Do I have to write JavaScript? I can't remember. The JavaScript, like that. There we go. And now we've finished our script. Right, so that's how to link a file to a file. Oh, I know why it wasn't writing properly. Sorry, I didn't delete that. There we go. There we go. Everything's the correct color now. What should have happened, sorry, let me show you this again. What brackets usually does, libs, yeah, once you start writing something, it comes up with what you might need. And look, it's already found that there's only one file inside of this folder libs, so it suggests it for you. Sorry. Usually when you're getting things wrong, it won't do that. So I knew in the back of my mind something was going wrong. Right, that's why I like brackets, it's nice. Right, so I'm going to save everything that we've done so far. And let's just get something on the screen so we can start with our tutorial and just make sure everything's linked properly and working. So we haven't got DOM, we haven't got sound, we don't really need those. We've just got our main P5 and we've got our main JavaScript file. Okay, I forgot to look at the time at the beginning of the video. So, okay, 5 minutes past at the moment. I'll take this now as the beginning of the proper code tutorial, and I'll remember to make like a link to this point. This is when we're starting, for those of you who are only interested in doing the snake, not setting up P5. Right, so we want a canvas. So we're going to do that obviously in a setup function. That's where the program starts. So we want to say create canvas, and then it's got two parameters. How big does your canvas want to be? We want to be the entire window width. So we don't know how big the browser window is going to be. It depends on the user, what they've done. So if you use the keyword window width, it will take automatically what the user is working with. And notice we're using camel humping here, which is where you capitalize the new word so that you can read it. That's important. Window width, P5 doesn't know what that is. The JavaScript won't work. So window width with a capital W, right, and then window height, which I've forgotten. It's a camel hump. There we go. And now we need a background color. So to paint the background, you write background, and then 3 parameters for red, green, and blue. You can put a 4th parameter in for alpha, which means transparency. The higher that number, up to 256 or 255, because we start counting at 0, the less transparent it will be. But we don't want any alpha or anything like that. So let's have, I don't know, I'm going to put in a random assortment of numbers and see what happens. 5275 is too high. 45. Never done that before, just randomly. It's kind of like a psychoanalytical thing. Right, I'm feeling green and I've covered my face. Let's minimize this so that we can communicate with our faces and eyes and occasional hand gestures. Right, so we've got I really like this green. What is this green? This is 100 204 45. Use it and abuse it. There you go. Right. Snake. What do we need first? We need a block. We just need to draw a square for a segment of the snake. At the moment, it will kind of be the snake's head. And we need to be able to use the arrow keys, up, down, left, right, to just set an instant movement of the snake. And isn't Snake beautiful? That's why I chose Snake, because it's so iconic, not only of like Nokia, I think it was on the early Nokia phones, but just when you're doing programming and coding and things, it has a I don't know how to say it, it has like an aesthetic, a kind of look, or a style that matches so well with coding, with programming, because it's kind of digital, the movement of the whole thing. It's kind of beautiful the way the tail kind of records the movement of the snake and everything. It's very satisfying to look at and play and use. So let's get going. So we're gonna need arrays, I think. We're gonna draw things and a bit of input. Right. So let's just draw something to the screen. So we can use rect, which is the P5 function for drawing a rectangle, and it takes 4 parameters. It takes an X and a Y position, and that's going to be the top left of your square, and then the X length of the rectangle, and then the the height, the y dimensions of the rectangle. But I like to draw things from the center, and you can do that by using the function, or calling the function rect mode, and then passing in the keyword center, American spelling like that, center. So now P5 is in rectangle mode, or central rectangle mode. It will draw its rectangles from the center. So rect, let's draw one. We'll draw it at width, I need to come back into lower cap, width divided by 2, height divided by 2. So that means we should be in the center of the screen, and then we want, let's see if 10 by 10 looks okay. So 10 across and a height of 10. And in brackets, the brackets editor, you can use this little like lightning bolt icon, and that sets up a local server for you and runs the HTML file, which is linked to our P5 library and our P5 sketch file, our main file, which we've just been working on. Right, brilliant. We've got width divided by 2, height divided by 2, so we're bang in the center, and 10 by 10. That looks about the right size for our snake segments with this kind of browser that we're using. Okay, now we want to get him moving, so we're going to have to change these hard-coded values into variables. So let's make some global variables, which you usually make at the top of your file, and JavaScript var x equals 0. We don't have to put a value in it. Var y equals. Sorry, look at my habits coming out. There we go. And what we'll do, we'll make a function in setup, and we'll call it setup snake. Setup snake. I like to keep my setup function and my draw function together, so I know where they are later on. So I'll make this new function down here. Notice it doesn't matter what order you put the functions in. So function setup snake, and you must get the spelling and the capitalization exactly right here. There we go, setup snake. And we're just going to say x equals width divided by 2. I could put an x there. And height divided by 2 is going to be y. There we go, right. So now, if we press play, essentially, a little lightning bolt, we should have the same thing. We've achieved the same thing, but now we're ready to move. We are ready to move. So, let's do some input. So, function, let's call it check input. So this isn't a P5 function. The draw function is a ready-made P5 function. P5 already understands to tell JavaScript to loop that function, and setup is pre-made, so it knows to start there. But check input and setup snake we've made up. So we need to call check input in the draw loop. We need to keep going to this function to check the keys and things to see if anything's been pressed. So let's just call that now, check input, and as yet it does nothing. As yet it does nothing. So we want to ask some questions. We want to say if key, what is it called? I think it's key is down. I think that's what you write in P5. So this is a P5 keyword I'm looking for. If P5 down is equals equals or equals 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 is now I think I can just write, and it's in capitals, up arrow. I think that's okay. Let's just debug. Let's just say we'll change the background. Red, no green, some blue. So the background should go pink if we've touched the up arrow. Let's just see if that works. So I'm touching the up arrow and that is not working. Let's just see if I need that. No, I don't think I need this. Oh, still running. No, this is not working yet. If key is down, do I just have to do that? No, I don't think this is right either. But it is. It is right. There we go. So that's how to get your input going. So key is down. Looks like it's a function, I didn't realise. And we've got up arrow in there. Right, so that's working. Let's copy this. And we're going to just check, first of all, that there's no funny business going on. And we'll use down arrow. And we'll just change that to some kind of green colour. So no red, loads of green, and a little bit of, sorry, no blue. Let's just see if that works. So I've changed the keyword from up arrow to down arrow. So I press up arrow, it goes pink. Down arrow, it goes an even brighter green. Up arrow again. Yep. It looks like, isn't that strange? It looks like a snake is already moving. That is really weird. Oh yeah, look. Oh, I see what's happening. Sorry. You see the scroll bar here? Down, when I'm pressing down, that also affects where your page is scrolled to. I wonder if I can just... No. That might be because of key pressed. Let me show you what I mean. There's a P5 function. So this is not a what do I call it? I'm looking for a word. A user-made function. This is a P5 function called key pressed. This function is called every time we get the we press a key, and if I return false, I believe that means P5 will ignore moving the browser around, so we don't get that annoying effect of scrolling around when we're just trying to move our snake. And that's worked now. So it now looks like our snake stays in the right position and our scroll bars have disappeared. Lovely. So that's how to get rid of that little issue. Just return false from key pressed, and P5 will know not to scroll the screen. It's not to do that. Right, scroll the canvas, scroll the browser. Right. So we don't want to simply change the background. We want to move the snake. So what's the best way to do this? I don't know. Let's change it through. Let's change it through some Boolean variables. So we could have a Boolean variable, which is a true or false variable. We could have is moving up, and we could have that to true, and then we'd have to say in here, is moving down is false, is moving left is false, is moving right is false. So we could copy and paste that a few times. Or what I'm thinking is we could have a movement vector for our snake, and that would simply be -1 in the y if it was going up. So we could just change that one thing. Let me show you. Let's do that. So we could say smov, so that will stand for S movement, or would that be a function? Yeah, let's do it this way. We're going to call a function called smove, or let's call it change movement, and then we're going to pass in two parameters, the x and the y movement. So for moving up, we want no movement in the x direction, and we want -1 in the y. So for the key is down, we want the opposite to that, or one opposite to that. We just simply want to go down in the y, no movement in the x. And let's now make that function. Doesn't exist yet. Function change movement, and we're going to take an x and a y component. Now I've just used an underscore there. It's something I like to do, and other people I've seen like to do, just to signal or highlight, remind myself that these parameters are arguments passed into a function, and they're not like real variables in and of themselves. No hard feelings, underscore parameters. You're real to me. You're real to me. So change movement. So now we want to tell the snake's movement, which doesn't really exist yet, that it has to do what these parameters say. So we need to make the snake's movement. So we'll call that S movement, snake movement, and that wants to be a vector. So when we set up our snake, we've just set up the snake's position. Let's just comment that, the snake's position. And now we want our snake's, what is this? The snake's vector, we'll call that, or velocity vector. Direction, we'll just call it direction. And we're going to say S movement, there he is, equals, how do you make a vector? What am I talking about? P5 has its own vector object, and you make one by saying create vector. So it's on the pattern of creating a canvas, for example, where we said create canvas, like that. And it's lowercase and then uppercase for the first letter of that thing that you want to make. So we're going to say create vector, and if we leave it without any parameters, that will default to 0, 0. So when we change, actually when we set up our snake, let's have our snake moving to the right. So we would say 1 in the x direction, positive 1, and nothing in the y direction. It's not going to go up or down. There we go. And then when we change the movement, we're going to say S movement. Now, how do you talk about the x component and the y component separately? All you have to do is use a period, a dot, and then x. That will refer to the first component in your vector object. Now, your vector might be, all a vector is storing up to 3 values, floating point numbers. And we're just storing 2. Now they're always referred to as x, y, and z. It doesn't matter whether you're doing location, positions, movement, whatever. It will always call them x, y, and z. So just because we're using x and y, and we're using x and y for our position, has nothing to do with this x. This is just a pre-built x that P5 uses for its vectors, and most other conventions, the usual convention is to use .x, .y, .z for the 3 components. So you'll find it in other programming languages and libraries. So we want to say the x component of S movement equals that parameter that we've passed in, and we want to do exactly the same equivalently for the y. There we go. So now we can change our direction. This is bizarre what order I'm finding myself doing this in, because we haven't even got our snake moving, and yet we're kind of pre-coding how it's going to move around. So if we're moving it right, we want to go positive 1 in the x component, 0 in the y component, again 0 for moving left in the y component, but we want to go minus 1. Okay, so what we should definitely now write is a movement function, and then press this icon again and see what's going on. And then I'm going to have to think about whether we want to stop this video and make another one. So they're fairly short. They're about, no more than 45 minutes each. or just press on. Let's see. So function move snake, and now we don't have to say if the snake is moving right, do this. If it's moving down, do this. We can just move it according to that vector that we've made. So it's shorter. I didn't have to paste a lot of stuff, and it should still work in a shorter amount of code. So that's maybe what you call elegance. It's shorter and kind of works. I've said all this before, it actually works. But how are we going to do this? We're going to say, we're going to change the position. That's what movement is. That's not the position. That's the movement vector. We want to change its x and y. So we're going to say x plus equals snake movement dot x. So we want to move the x position of the snake by the x component of the movement vector. There we go. And so the y is going to be plus equals the s movement dot y. We want to move the y position according to the y component of our s movement vector. There we go. Let's just see if this works. No, we haven't called s. Oh no, I pressed the button. We haven't called the function. So we should just get nothing happening. No screen scrolling there. Right, Snakey. Snakey, going to be moving hopefully soon. So we're drawing the snake in the draw function. We shouldn't do that. We should have a function that draws a snake. So we call it draw snake. And then we just need to copy that into here. Lovely. So we're checking the input. That can stay. Should we have that first? Should we check user input? And then afterwards we shall draw the snake. And then we're going to, what did I call it? Move the snake. Move snake. Thank you, brackets. There we go. So everything should be working. Everything should be working. Snake, yes. So remember in setup, we asked it to move to the right and nothing in the Y. I press up and it stops. I press down, left, right. Nothing's happening. Right. I didn't anticipate this bug. This is truly surprising. Let me just bring up the console. And I'm bringing up the console by pressing on my Mac Alt Command J. If you're on Windows, it's Control Shift J. I don't know what it is on Linux, I'm afraid. If you're on Linux, you wouldn't have this bug. You're better than that. You're better than that if you're on Linux. Right. Uncaught reference error. Change movement is not. Oh, Chang movement is not defined. What's that? Line 34. So a typo. Oh no! Look. Change movement. Chang movement. Chang movement. Let's try again. Hopefully it was just that one error, that one typo. Okay, so our snake is moving. Up arrow, yep, it's moving up. Left, down, right, down. Now, it kind of looks like snake already, but that's just an illusion because we are drawing our snake without kind of redrawing the background. So if we want our snake, if we don't want our snake to leave a trail, and it's just leaving the trail of the black line, its black outline that it's drawn with, we're going to have to repaint the background every time. Although we've kind of achieved a static snake so far, right? So all we have to do to rectify that is redraw the background at the very start of our draw loop with the same color every time. So it kind of paints everything green, draws a snake, move the snake, but don't draw it again, paint everything, and then the snake appears in its new position, so it gives the illusion of movement. And what I can do right now, I'm going left, but I can press the right arrow key and I move straight back. and I shouldn't be able to do that in Snake. You can't kind of like invert yourself, go back through your body. So should we take care of that bug? We've seen that bug ahead of time. Should we rectify that? So we're going to say if key down is up, and we use the AND operator for this logical condition, and snake movement y does not equal so we're trying to go up, so we're not allowed to be moving down at the moment, does not equal 1. There you go. Then you can go up. So let's just see if that works. So we're moving down. We should not be able to move up. So I'm pressing up and I can't move up. I can move right, I can move left, I can move down, I can't move up. So if I'm moving right, now I can move up. Left, I can move up. Up, I can move up. Down, I can. We haven't conditioned for that yet. But if I'm moving up, if I'm moving down, I can't move up. So that worked very well. Right. So let's copy that little bit of code and apply it to our other directions. So we're pressing the down arrow, so we can't be moving up. So y can't be -1. -1 means we're moving up. The right arrow is going to be slightly different. We're talking about the x component of that vector, and so we're trying to go right, so we're not allowed to be moving left. So left is -1 on the x-axis, and finally x can't equal 1. So we're trying to move left, so that's -1. We can't already be moving with our x component being 1. Command save everything, so the changes are applied before we run. Right, let's see if I can move up, down, sorry, up, left, down, right. Now can I move left? No, brilliant. I can move up, but I shouldn't be able to move down. Can't move down. I can move left, can't move right, move down, can't move up. Okay, so we've got the proper movement working. So we've got input, the movement according to Snake, and we've got one segment or head moving around. I think I'm going to stop the video here because we've got the basics, and then next video we'll do the all-important segment, have a piece of fruit or something like that, and maybe we'll finish it. Thank you very much for watching. Hopefully this was useful. Good luck.